Pedro and Jaime are two brothers who live in a small house in rural Argentina. One night, as they are about to sleep, they hear gunshots in the distance. Pedro, being an experienced hunter, immediately realizes it is a revolver, which means whoever is out there is not hunting animals. The brothers arm themselves and prepare to check it out. But at the last second, they change their minds because it is already too dark, so they decide to wait until morning. As soon as the sun rises, the brothers head into the nearby forest where the gunshots came from. After walking for a few minutes, they come across a terrible sight. An unknown man's body has been torn apart in half. Judging by the condition, Pedro figures this was not the work of an animal. He says this is no ordinary death, so the two brothers start searching the area. Soon they find some documents on the man's body, suggesting he was heading to a woman's house that they seem to know. There is also a copy of the woman's ID with the name Maria on it, so the brothers head in that direction to find out more. Pedro and Jaime arrive at Maria's house and tell her that the person she was waiting for will not be coming because he is already dead. It is clear the person was very important to her. The woman explains that the man was supposed to deal with her older son Uriel and that he needed to kill him. Hearing this, the brothers are curious and decide to dig deeper to understand what she means. Uriel's younger brother Santiago explains that Uriel has been possessed and has been getting worse for a long time. The family has been hiding this from their neighbors out of fear of being kicked off the land. They also mentioned that they reported this to the mayor a year ago, but he only recently took notice and sent someone to help. The man found dead in the woods was actually a religious cleaner who was supposed to help them get rid of the possessed Uriel. Hearing all this, the brothers worry that the evil force could become a threat to them, so they go to the police station to report the case. However, the officers claim that most possession cases are fake, which makes Pedro furious. He angrily tells them that Uriel is dying and swollen, and after seeing how serious Pedro is, one of the cops decides to call public health. Another cop suspects that the landowner Ruiz killed the religious cleaner in the woods. The brothers then approach Ruiz and share all the details of the situation, including the dead man in the woods. The police will send a new cleaner from the government, but Pedro says Uriel is dying and they cannot wait any longer. Upon hearing this, Ruiz believes the government is behind it all, using the situation to scare away the villagers so they can take the land for their own use. Later that day, Ruiz tells his pregnant wife that he does not want anything bad to happen on his land. He angrily grabs his gun and heads to Uriel's house to finish him off. But before he can do so, Maria steps in and warns him that if he uses a gun against the entity, it will break free and take over everyone. It turns out that Uriel is being possessed by an unborn demon that is waiting to be physically born. The cleaner Maria called was supposed to kill Uriel and stop the demon before it spreads to others. The entity possessing Uriel tells Ruiz to shoot him so it can move into Ruiz's wife's belly and take over the baby inside her. Hearing this, Ruiz becomes frightened and eventually leaves the house. Afterward, he explains to the brothers that they need to get rid of the evil force as quickly as possible. If they are not fast enough, the entity will destroy everything in its path. The three of them force their way into the woman's house with the plan of taking Uriel away. However, it is not easy because the possessed man appears to be enormous. While being carried, disgusting things pour out of his body. Even so, the three manage to carry him out and load him into their van. Their plan is to take him as far away as possible and leave him somewhere he can never come back from. After driving 300 kilometers from home, Pedro tells Ruiz to drive another 100 kilometers further. But then all of a sudden, they almost run over a schoolboy on the road. The three of them decide to take a break and check on Uriel. However, when Ruiz opens the trunk, the man is no longer there. They search the area but find no sign of him. The group assumes that his large body must have rolled out of the van when they almost hit the schoolboy. Since they have already driven about 300 kilometers, they feel it is a safe enough distance and head back home. Unfortunately, the very next day, Ruiz and his pregnant wife discover that one of their goats has been possessed by the same evil entity. Furious and out of options, Ruiz aims his gun at the animal, but his wife stops him. She repeats what the old woman said earlier, that you cannot defeat evil with a gun. Moments later, Ruiz tries to back off, but the possessed goat walks right up to his gun and dares him to pull the trigger. He does, and it turns out to be a deadly mistake. The evil escapes and finds a new host, which turns out to be the baby inside his wife. His wife also gets taken over, and she ends up killing both of them with an axe. Back at home, Pedro and Jaime are sitting quietly when Uriel's brother Santiago shows up at their door. He nervously tells them that his mother is missing and that both Ruiz and his wife are dead. The brothers are shocked. Santiago asks to stay with them for the night. Jaime is not sure about it and refuses, but Pedro agrees to let him sleep in the barn. They find a revolver on him and take it away. Before leaving, the boy warns them not to use electric lights because it apparently draws the evil force toward them. The brothers do not pay much attention to his warning. The next day, Pedro and Jaime decide to leave the village, but they are afraid to bring any belongings with them. They worry the evil force might be hiding in their things and could harm their loved ones. Before leaving for town, Pedro goes to visit his ex-wife Sabrina, while Jaime stays with their mother. Sabrina now lives with her new partner Leo and their daughter, and they also have 2 sons from Sabrina's previous marriage to Pedro. Pedro walks in and tells Leo to have his wife and children get ready to leave with him. He asks Leo for a change of clothes, and Leo has no idea what is going on. Sabrina thinks Pedro is drunk, but he promises to explain everything later. While this is happening, Leo's dog sniffs Pedro's old clothes. Once Pedro changes, he burns the clothes he took off right away and brings Leo and Sabrina inside to talk. He tells them that there is an evil entity in town and that the village is about to become a very dangerous place. The couple remains skeptical. Meanwhile, Pedro's son Santino is told to wake up his brother upstairs while Leo's daughter Vicky is outside playing with the dog. While the parents are arguing about Pedro wanting to take his sons, none of them notice what is happening behind them. The dog suddenly gets taken over and attacks the little girl, dragging her outside the house. The adults rush after them to save Vicky, but the possessed dog gets away. It seems the dog got possessed after sniffing Pedro's old clothes. Pedro leaves Leo behind, goes home to calm down his son Santino, and then heads upstairs to wake up his older son. Later, the family gathers together at their grandmother's house. The grandmother explains several rules for staying safe from possession. She says they must not say the names of evil out loud, they must not use electric lights, and they must not show fear. As she continues listing the rules, Pedro stops her because she is breaking her own rule by saying the evil names out loud. At the same time, Pedro's autistic son Jair begins repeating the names they were told not to say. Shortly after, Pedro's mother receives a phone call from Sabrina, which is strange because Pedro had just seen her dying. Pedro takes the phone far away from his family and answers it. Sabrina says she is coming after their children, and she tries to get into Pedro's head by saying she cheated on him because no one likes him. After the call ends, Pedro insists Sabrina is dead, and he is left deeply shaken. He feels guilty for bringing the evil into Sabrina's life and destroying her family. Seeing how distressed he is, Jaime suggests they go find a former cleaner named Mirta who might be able to help them. A while later, they arrive at Mirta's home, and Jaime explains everything to her. She promises to help as best she can and asks them to stay the night. That night, Jair refuses to leave the car, so Pedro stays outside with him while the rest of the family sleeps inside the house. As everyone is asleep, the grandmother suddenly notices Sabrina standing in her room with a disfigured face, holding Santino. When Pedro and Jaime find out, Pedro rushes into the room and sees Sabrina carrying Santino before she jumps off the balcony. Pedro runs after her, but quickly realizes she is already gone. Things get worse when Mirta reveals that Jair has now been possessed too. However, she explains that the evil force has not fully taken over him yet because Jair is autistic and it cannot fully control his mind. Using this window of opportunity, Mirta opens her cleaning equipment and explains to Pedro and Jaime that they need to kill the entity known as Rotten in order to break the possession. She knows it is alive somewhere, and they need to find it. The brothers tell her that the first person who got possessed, Uriel, fell from the truck on the road. Hearing this, Mirta says moving Rotten was a big mistake. She then shares another rule for staying safe from possession. She tells them they must not be afraid to die because evil feeds on fear. She says this because the entire family is terrified of losing Santino right now. Mirta and Pedro set off to find Rotten while Jaime goes to search for Sabrina and Santino. As they drive, Mirta tells Pedro about her life. Her husband used to pretend to run a church and hired actors to perform fake rituals until the real Rotten showed up and taught them a hard lesson. That is when they started doing the real work. Her husband disappeared one day while attempting a real cleansing. She has been doing this for 12 years, which is why Rotten has stayed away from her. Pedro asks why the evil entity went after his son instead of Mirta, and she explains that it is because he is the one who is afraid, specifically afraid of losing his son. Meanwhile, Jaime, who has been searching for Sabrina and Santino, finally finds them. To his horror, he discovers that Sabrina has brutally killed Santino. In shock and grief, Jaime ends up hitting Sabrina with his car, injuring himself in the process. At the same time, Pedro and Mirta reach a school while searching for Rotten. Mirta believes Rotten must be there because the evil entity is drawn to children, and children in turn are drawn to it. Back at home, Pedro's mother is alone when Jair suddenly walks in and asks for food like a completely normal person, frightening her because this is the first time she has ever heard him speak this way. When Pedro and Mirta enter the school, Pedro turns off his flashlight and Mirta's guess turns out to be right. They find children sitting quietly in a classroom in the middle of the night, all appearing to be possessed by the evil force. Mirta asks the kids where the entity is, but they refuse to say, and she rushes outside because she cannot stand the smell of their breath. She explains that the children are protecting Rotten. They then come across the child that Ruiz almost hit earlier while transporting Uriel. The boy tells them that Uriel is at a teacher's house and gives them directions, but he refuses to go with them. Pedro rushes to the car, but Mirta warns it could be a trap. Just then, the girl from the classroom appears and says the boy is lying, claiming that Uriel is actually at her house. Pedro and Mirta quickly realize both children are giving them false directions to confuse them, which means Rotten is still right there at the school. Continuing their search, they find a horrible scene on the school hall stage. Under the stage, they discover the dead body of a teacher, likely killed by the possessed children. As Mirta sets up the equipment needed to destroy the demon, Pedro opens the stage floor to reveal several dead bodies scattered underneath, and he takes them out one by one. Hidden beneath all those lifeless bodies, they finally find Uriel alive, which is where Rotten is living. Mirta tells Pedro to remove Uriel from the hiding spot, but it turns out to be almost impossible. As Pedro tries to move Uriel, he gets pulled into a mental battle with the evil entity. The little girl then tells Pedro that there is an axe in the back room that he can use to kill Uriel. Unable to handle the entity taunting him about his son, Pedro walks toward the office to get the axe, while Mirta screams at him not to leave her, but then he becomes trapped inside. At the same time, the possessed children kill Mirta brutally with a hammer while she is left alone outside. She was the only cleaner strong enough to fight the evil force. After a struggle, Pedro manages to break free from the room, but the children have already taken Mirta's body away. Uriel then pokes his head out from under the stage and tells Pedro to kill him. Overwhelmed with grief and rage, Pedro beats Uriel to death with a broken piece of equipment, but it is too late to stop what comes next. The demon inside Uriel is born, breaking free from the body and revealing itself to a broken Pedro. After mocking Pedro by letting him live, the newborn demon walks out into the morning sun, with the children following behind it. Afterward, Pedro and Jaime give up and return home, feeling completely defeated. The evil presence has now spread and taken over the entire town. As they sit wondering what to do next, they remember that they had locked up Uriel's brother in their barn. Jaime goes to check on him, and the boy makes a shocking confession. He says that a voice forced him to kill the cleaner who was supposed to help Uriel at the very beginning of the story. Not only that, the evil entity forced the boy to eat the dead man's remains. He also reveals he did the same to his own mother the night before, and hints that Jaime's mother has suffered the same fate. In the final scene, Pedro goes to take a shower after giving ice cream to Jair. While in the bathroom, he notices that the marks left on his head by the evil entity have become permanent. He steps out of the bathroom only to find Jair choking on something stuck in his throat. When Pedro checks, he finds a clump of hair and then his mother's necklace. This means that Jair ate his own grandmother, having been possessed as well. Overwhelmed with despair, Pedro collapses to the floor and breaks down crying. The two brothers sit together, thinking about everyone they have lost, and that is where the movie ends.